Here we go. Welcome everybody to our Friday morning class. We are using book number 134, which is AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs. And the song for today is Stormy Weather. Stormy Weather. So what do we know about stormy weather? It's like we have some usually every day in Florida. That we know. Um, Ethel Waters first sang this at the Cotton Club in Harlem in 1933. She recorded it that same year. It was featured in the 1943 movie called Stormy Weather. And
there are three on there. Well,
more than three.
It's featured in the 1943 movie Stormy Weather, which is considered one of the best musicals with 100% African American cast, which back in 1943, that was quite a feat. This was also recorded by Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, Etta James, Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington, Lena Horne, and Billie Holiday. Yep, Billie Holiday. So, great singers have done this. It's kind of a bluesy song, so even though song setup says to use the autumn keys at 72, I found that it was also very good on Duke's Blues. Jazz Club was very nice. And even slow, easy blues came out really nice. Basic Special Rain was good. Singing in the Rain background is good for this. On the smaller instruments, standard full band, which is Frank and the Count. Frank and the Count also works. Standard guitarist, which is guitar swing. Standard pianist, group 2, gives you that jazz club for those of you that have the fanfares and the journeys. Broadway, pianist or guitarist. The pianist gives you the awesome piano. That's Dennis-aw. Country, guitarist group 2, On the Trail. Try that one. It's completely off the wall, but it does work a little bit. So don't be afraid to have some fun. Once you find the one that you love, of course, write that one in, and then continue practicing by pushing buttons and say, "Ooh, let's try it on disco," or let's try it on the trail, or let's try it on something that we normally wouldn't play, because sometimes you come up with some really cool recipes for your songs. Don't just stick with the ones that you know. It's very easy to fall into that trap. We're human beings, and we have a tendency to use our 5 favorite backgrounds pretty much for everything. I'm the same. I do it all the time. I go to Strings 101 and Basic Country. I go to my same 5 favorites. But once you have it learned in one of your favorite backgrounds, then start pressing the buttons and finding other rhythms that would be fun to try. Okay? Especially if you love the song. If you don't love the song, not so much, then don't worry about it. But it's just, this is an assignment to get you to know what your instrument can do and what your instrument has for rhythms. So sometimes it's just kind of fun to say, okay, let's go out of the box. Let's try it on a march, or let's try it on a gospel. Sometimes your recipes are not going to come out very good, and that's okay. But at least you're learning what your instrument has and what it can do. Okay, did I change any chords on this? Yes, I did. Quite a few of them. So get your pencils out, and hopefully they're very sharp. Remember, the chords are 100% optional. You do not need to play the extra chords, but sometimes it will add some spice and it will make it sound a whole lot better. Sometimes it's just a nice challenge for yourself, because remember, why do we play music? Well, we play music to feel good. We play music so we don't have to watch TV, and we play music to keep our brains sharp. That's the number one thing. You didn't know that I was 155 years old, did you? Oh, no. Music keeps us young. That's just a fact. All right, first measure. The C chord is good for 2 counts. Cross out the A chord and replace it with C, sharp, diminished, It's two fingers. It's the C sharp and the G, gorilla. The D minor, you may put a 7 on it. D minor is D and F. If you wish to put the 7 on, it is C, D, and F. The next chord is a G. You may play just G. You may play G7, or you may play G9. Oh boy, that's a 4-fingered chord. And your notes on that are F, G, A, B. 4 notes right in a row. You just take your 4 fingers and just land them on those 4 keys, and it makes a real pretty chord.
Can you, what was that again? F what?
F, G, A, B.
FGAB.
F, G, A, B, right in a row, yeah. Just makes a gorgeous chord. Let's show you what that sounds like. Here's a G. Here's a G7. And here's the G9. It's subtle, but it's nice. 9s are nice. Those are those jazz chords. Let's go to the next line. Second line, second measure. You may put a 7 on the D minor, so it would be C, D, and F. The G can be G7 or it can be G9. There it is again, F, G, A, B. Let's go to the third line. First measure, third beat. If you wish, you may make that G a G augmented or a G augmented 7. G augmented is D sharp, G and B, and you might as well throw the 7 in, it just makes it better. D sharp, F, G, and B. Here's the G, here's the G7, here's the G7 augmented. Okay?
What does that show on your screen?
Oh, it'll tell you. It'll tell you right here, G7 aug.
I tried to play that yesterday and I could not get it to show a G.
Did it
augmented.
show, okay, did it show I'll bet it showed an E flat aug.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you did not have the F. If you include the F, which is the 7, now it shows up G7 aug.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's an E flat aug, and that's fine. It's the same tonality, so don't worry about it. Good question. Okay, the first ending. The C chord is good for the whole measure. Cross out the A minor and throw it away. Why? We're going to put a fill in right there, so you can write fill or FX. Then the D minor, you may put a 7 on the D minor, and the G can be a G7 or a G9. Let's go down to the second ending, the fourth line. The C chord is good for 2 counts. Beat 3. F or F7, which is E flat and F, or F9. That would be a nice chord to try too. And your notes are E flat, F, G, A. Again, those 9 chords just have 4 notes right in a row. And it sounds really bluesy and really pretty. Those are jazz chords.
Where does that F9 go?
That's in the first measure of the second ending, or the fourth line. Third beat, right in between the 2 C's, the C half note and the C quarter note. Second measure, first beat, over the A, put a C chord, plain old chicken. Beats 3 and 4. Beat 3, you're going to put in E minor, which is E and G, or E minor 7, which is D, E, G. And beat 4 is A or A7. A7 is G and A. The D minor is D minor 7, if you wish. Remember, your 7s are always optional. Those are moving chords. It just adds a little bit of spice to the chord. The G can be G, G7, or G augmented, and you might as well make it a G augmented 7. It's just as easy to play. D sharp, F, G, B. And that's it for that page. Let's go to the top of the second page. Make that F an F major 7. Major 7s are not the same as regular 7s. Regular 7s are called dominant 7s, and they are moving chords. Your ear hears and waits for the next chord. A major 7 you can sit on. You can end a song with a major 7. And the mathematical rule is the letter minus 1. So F major 7 is E and F. The C
You
chord
made
is good.
that you
Pardon?
made that an F6 the last time.
Ken,
Okay.
the first line, third measure, make that F an F major 7. Second line, second measure, third beat over the C for the word pray. Put in a C diminished, C diminished, C-D-I-M, and it's made with 2 fingers. The mathematical formula is the letter plus 6. So it's C and F sharp, or C and G flat, whichever way you can read it better. It's the same note. The next C is good for 2 counts. Beat 3 over the F for let A, or A7. Third line, over the G for walk, D minor, dinosaur minor, D and F, and over the E for in, so 1 chord per beat there, E or E7. Beat 3 is that A minor, and if you wish, you can put a 7 on that one. Let's go over, we're still in the same line, line 3, over to the third measure. The C chord is good for 2 counts. Cross out the A or A7 and replace it with C sharp diminished, C sharp and G. The D minor, you may put a 7 on it, which would be C, D, and F. The G can be a G7 or a G9. F, G, A, B. Line 4, second measure. You may put a 7 on the D minor, C, D, F. The G can be a G7 or it can be a G9. There it is again. F, G, A, B. The next measure is fine. The next measure, D minor, you might want to put a 7 on it. And then the G at the end can be a G7 or a G augmented. What makes it augmented is that D sharp. And if you notice in the right hand, guess what you're playing anyway? So you're matching the note much nicer than just playing a plain old G. But your right hand, even if you do just want to play plain old D, your right hand's going to pick up that D sharp sound. So you're going to get that G augmented sound anyway. But your notes again are D sharp, F, G, B. Last line. Second measure, you may put a 7 on the D minor. The next G, you can make it a G augmented or a G7 augmented. F sharp, D sharp, F, G, B. The last chord is a C, and if you want to put 2 little tag chords on, you may. Beat 3, you may put in an F7, E flat, and F, or an F9, which is E flat, F, G, A, and then go back to C to finish the song. Remember, chords are the spice of your music, but you don't need to learn them all at one time. My goodness, don't torture yourself. Pick one that you like. Pick one that sounds nice to you and say, today I'm going to learn this chord. And don't be afraid to write them in. Now, some people have been writing in all the letters in their book, and they're finding that it makes a mess. So what I'm recommending is keep an extra piece of paper next to the page, and you write your chords in the music, but write the notes of the chord on the piece of paper for reference. And then just learn them one at a time. Pick one that sounds pretty and try it.
Would you go over line number 3, page 2 again, please?
Yes, sir. First measure, first beat. Over the G, D minor, dinosaur minor, for 1 count. Over the E, 8th note for the word in, E or E7. That's beat 2. Elephant 7. You may put a 7 on the A minor. Now let's jump over to the 3rd measure of that line. 3rd beat. Cross out the A and replace it with C sharp diminished. C sharp diminished is C sharp and G. And you may put a 7 on the D minor, and then the very last G can be a G7 or a G9.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hey, Dawn, on the first page, the second line, can you hit those again? I kind of got distracted.
Okay, no worries. No worries. Second measure, the second line of the first page, second measure, D minor 7, if you wish. 7s are optional. The G can be a 7 or a 9. And that's it for that second line.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody else? All right, let's do some fingering, and then we'll play. D sharp, 2, E3, G5, D sharp, 2, E3, G5, E3, G5, G flat 4, F3, D sharp 2, E3. Second line, the high G is a 5, the low G is a 1. Now, you might want to put a little squiggly line between the 2 G's. That's a glissando. A glissando. Now, how do you go from 5 to 1 and make it a glissando? Okay? What you have to do is what I do is I'll just put my 5th finger on the G, meet my thumb up to that, and then drag my thumb down across the keys. Let's hit a G. Okay? Now, if you can do a pinky glissando, go ahead and do this and go down. But the only person I've ever been able to see do that is Marco. And it amazes me that his fingers are that strong. Otherwise, your thumb is good. Just play that G with your thumb, with your pinky. Reach your thumb up to your pinky and just drag the thumb down. Because you're going to land on that thumb anyway. Let's continue with fingering. D5, 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 D5. C4, A2, C4. G can be 2 or 1, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. You can put a little check mark at the end of the line. Take a little breath. F1, A2, C3, D sharp 4, D sharp 4, E5, C3. Now, if you want to do a little squiggly line between the E and the C, then it would be E5 and C1, and you're going to do that little finger roll from the E to the C. And you're really hitting each note, but you're just kind of rolling it down. So it makes for a little glissando, but you're hitting every single note in between. Put a check mark in the rest. Your pickup notes are D sharp and E. Let's go to the second ending. You can do the glide on glissando between the E and the C. So then the E would be 5 and the C would be 1. And put a little squiggly line in between E and C. Just going to grab every note in between. After the C half note, put a check mark. Make the next C a 5. The A is a 3. G is 2. F1, A2, C3, D sharp 4, D sharp 4, E5, C3. Or if you want to do the finger roll, it's 5 and 1. I just sometimes choose to do it in some places but not the others so that it doesn't become too messy. You want to always keep your listeners surprised at what you do. All right, let's go to the top of the second page. A1, B2, C3, D4, C3, 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 E5, C3. A1, B2, C3, D4, C3, 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 C3. Second line, C3, C3, A2, G1, A2, B3, C1, circle it, you're going to tuck under right there, D2, C1, 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 F4, E3, third line, G5, E3, D2, C1, A2 with a circle, you're crossing it over, D5, check mark, D sharp, 2, E3, G5, D sharp 2, E3, G5, E3, G5, G flat 4, F3, D sharp 2, E3, high C5, low G1. If you want to do a squiggly line there, go ahead and do a glissando. But again, you don't want to do it every time. You want to keep your listeners in suspense. D5, 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 C4, A2, C4. G can either be 1 or 2. If you notice, this is exactly the same fingering that we did on the other page when we had this section. F1, A2, C3, D sharp 4, D sharp 4, and the last line E5, C3, F1, A2, C3, D sharp 4, D sharp 4, E5, C1, put a squiggly line in between and do a nice little finger roll. Okay. Now, song pattern on this is actually, you know what? I'm going to play it first before we talk about song pattern. We're going to play it first on the song setup on this particular organ, which is the beautiful symphony, by the way. And it comes up to autumn keys with Glenn Miller's orchestra playing your melody and the Glenn Miller brass playing down here. It's a C chord for the introduction. So here we go. That was your song setup. Now that's not my favorite background for this, believe it or not. And the sounds, in my opinion, the sounds got a little too high or too low, and so I probably would have picked different sounds. But that's what the song setup comes up, so just so that you know what that is.
Done.
Yeah.
When you start this song and you started it with a C,
Yes.
then you also started with a C6.
Yeah, it would probably sound okay. There's no C6 in here, so, it's...
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
the last time that we did this a couple of years ago,
Ken?
we had a lot of them.
Ken? We're not talking about last
Well, I
time.
learned that one, so I use it.
That's fine. Then go ahead and keep using it. C6 should be okay. All right. Did you notice how I played? Not necessarily the sounds that I used, but how I played. I did not play it exactly as written. I played it the way I would sing it. And that's the way I want you to always remember to play it the way you would sing it. Especially that's true at the top of the second page. You've got all those eighth notes. If I were to play those eighth notes, let's go to a jazz club. I'm still at 72. And I'm going to go to the top of the page and play it exactly as written, as best I can. Okay. That didn't sound bad, but it sounded very strict, very choppy, right? Because that's what happens when you play easy play. When you're using, especially a bluesy song like this or a jazzy song, they're going to write the eighth notes all even, but you're going to do what they call swinging the eighth notes. When you swing the eighth notes, you're going to play the first one a little bit longer and the second one a little bit shorter. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. And that's just going to go into the feel of your background a little bit better too. Use always your rhythm as the guide as to how you play it. And also just do it the way you would sing it. It's not going to come out evenly, but you don't want it to come out evenly. Let's try that top part again, swinging the eighth notes. It's going to sound a little more flowing. Hear the difference? One flowed a little bit nicer, and it matched the background a little bit more. Jazz club has a tendency to make you want to feel that bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. That's called swinging the eighth notes.
Big
And
difference.
It works with so many different songs, and especially with your bluesy and jazzy ones. But the best advice I can give you from now until the end of eternity is play the song the way you would sing it, or the way you remember Ella Fitzgerald singing it, or the way you remember Ethel Waters singing it. Do it the way you should sing it. Because remember, this is your singing hand. Okay? I'm going to try, I've got it on
Can I ask
Slow Easy Blues.
one question?
Go ahead.
And that would be, do you have, just a question. When you're playing your G7 augmented, which is, yeah.
D sharp.
Do you have any fingering preference on that?
I use my pinky on the black key. I use my third finger on F, my pointer on G, and my thumb on B. Sometimes when you get to those offbeat chords that are not out of the normal easy playbook, you have to move your hand. But by now, you should be starting to get a pretty good idea of where your normal hand position is going to be, so that when you have to jump out of it, it's going to be easy to get back to your original position. And remember, the reason you want to get back to the original position is so that you can feel where your chords are. Yes, the new chords make you think, but that's what they're for. They're to play brain games with yourself, so that keeps your brain sharp. And you are going to have to look sometimes to see where your hand is going. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to play this on slow, easy blues. I'm going to, again, start on a C chord. And I'm going to play with the trombone. Now, if you're playing with a trombone, you have to think like you're the trombone player. So you have to remember to give your trombone player time to breathe. And you may want to have him do some gliding. Yeah.
Dawn, was that Duke's Blues?
Nope, that was actually, that one was actually the slow, easy blues. Slow, easy blues. You play that one for summertime. That's a good background for summertime. Duke's Blues is going to sound more like this one. And it works too. Yeah, that works too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
many horns.
Those bluesy backgrounds really, really lend nicely to this. But your horns are always going to be good with this, because it was done in the big band era. So lots of horns are fabulous. It also brought up a muted trumpet. Of course, remember jazz clubs also had lots of piano players, so piano was good. You can never go wrong with a pretty organ sound, but I don't think there were a lot of organs back in the big band era, so you may wish to just stick with your horns on this one. Okay, now as far as song pattern, when I first started singing this, and I don't think I sang it anywhere but at Fletcher Music Centers a long time ago, I kept messing up. The accompanist was the manager of this store, and I kept messing up, and I couldn't figure out why. I'd never done the song before, but what was I doing wrong? I kept missing the tag at the end of the second ending where it says "so weary all the time." Those last couple of measures in there, I missed every time. And then when I read about the song and realized and dissected it, I realized, oh, it was written that way on purpose. It's a completely awkward song pattern. The A part is the first 8 measures. The second A part, when you go back and play it again, is A, but they added 2 extra measures. Why did they do that? Because they could. That's composers for you. And then the B section is that bridge part where with all those 8th notes. And then it starts up again, can't go on. And that also is an A plus 2 measures. But I missed those 2 measures every time. I always wanted to go right into the bridge because I didn't realize. I didn't realize. So composers are known to break rules like that just to make something their own. And again, it keeps the listeners guessing. It also keeps the singer messing up. That's they did that on purpose. Yep. But be careful when you have that because that's so weary all the time. That's just like an extra, it's a big extra sigh at the end of that section before moving into the bridge.
Well, at the end of the song, it says keeps raining all the time. So that's exactly the same.
That's exactly the same. Those 2 extra measures at the end, keeps raining all the time. So talk about blues. This is a true bluesy song. Play it and have a good time with it. It's a wonderful song. It's a standard. And remember the chords. Only learn one at a time. That's the best advice I can give you, too. Don't torture yourself. It's not called working the instrument. It's called playing the instrument. So keep it fun all the time. Any questions before we go?
Hey, Dawn,
Yes?
I'm glad I stayed because the only chord changes I had was a couple of C sharp diminish.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that had to be a long time ago.
Yeah, it could have been. I know I've done this song several times, and I always revisit it so I can make sure that
I'm glad I stayed. Yeah.
Okay, so do we do the Streets of Philadelphia, or do we skip that one? There's a lot of la-la-las in there.
Skip.
Skip? Okay, the next one then is Suicide is Painless from MASH. That's a good tune. That one. That's a good tune. I'll see how hard this is. I don't think it's that hard. If this one ends up being something super quick, then what I'll do is I'll move on to the next one, and I'll also include Summer Nights. Okay? But as of now, we're going to Suicide is Painless. Now, there's a lot of you that aren't using this book. If you need the song, because I don't think it's in any other book, if you need the song, shoot me an email, and I'm more than happy to send it out to you, okay?
All right. Thank you.
You guys are awesome, awesome, awesome. Are there any questions, or do you want to say hello to somebody else in the room before we go?
Dawn, would you please?
Hey, Pam.
Songs,
Hi.
the 2 songs.
Hi, Pam.
Hello.
Is Barbara there? Is Barbara here today?
Barbara.
Which
we have lots of
Barbara?
Barbaras.
Barbara Fried something?
Oh, I don't see her.
Barbara, I don't see her today either.
No.
How do you pronounce her last name?
I'm not sure which Barbara. I have 100 of them.
This one's last name starts with F.
Yeah.
Friedhofer, no.
Freeloader.
I'm not sure. I'll look that one up. I will look her up, and I'll check it for you for next time.
Okay.
Hi, Jan.
Dawn, what was the first song that you were going to do next week?
I'm going to do Suicide is Painless, which is the theme song from MASH. You'll recognize it right away. If you don't have the music, do let me know. Okay?
Yep.
And if I have a little extra time or this ends up being too easy for you guys, I'll go on to Summer Nights from Greece.
Woohoo. That's a hard
song to play. Yep.
That's a little harder.
Yep, it's a little harder. Yep.
Yep.
Don't forget, we have a concert this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Watch for your product workshops. I don't know them right offhand, but again, go to the website, FletcherMusic.com, and it will tell you what's coming up, not only in the company, but it will also pull up, if you go to locations, go to the villages, and it will pull up all of my classes as well. And that's going
Can
to
you
be
access through that website?
Yes, you can absolutely. You're going to have to in the future access through that website. So that's why I want you to start getting used to going there.
I tried to do that yesterday and I couldn't get anything.
Well, if you click on it, it's got a little drop box that comes down, and it's got a little link on it. It's got all kinds of numbers and letters, and it's underlined.
Right.
Click on that, and it takes me to another page, and said, you're trying to get into this link. Click on that link again, and it takes you right into Zoom.
Okay,
Okay?
great.
On the
Thank
taped
you.
ones aren't accessed from there, are they?
Which ones?
The ones that are taped.
No, that's
You have
all
to
through
go to
YouTube.
Go
Okay.
to YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube.
That's-
Hey,
That's how
Carol.
I've been getting them. Thank you.
Yep. Yep, that's all YouTube.
Hey, Carol.
So there's two
Hi.
different ways. Two different ways to get. Right now, you can also get to the classes through your emails, but that eventually is going to stop, and you'll have to go through the website. So start practicing with that. Go to FletcherMusic.com.
Okay,
Very good.
thank you.
You guys
Thank
are
you.
Hey there,
wonderful.
Dottie.
Thank you,
Thank
Don.
you.
Hey,
Have a good
Bye. See you
Thank you for
Monday.
everything.
have a good week.
Bye. Thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend. Stay safe and love you guys.
Love you
Love you
too.
too.
Bye-bye.